You were not born to be liked. You were born to be real. So here's a message to every woman who's tired of shrinking herself to fit into boxes made by people who fear her power. No more good girl. No more saying yes when your soul screams no. No more apologizing for breathing too loud, dreaming too big, or loving yourself first. This world has enough nice girls who betray themselves to keep the peace. It's time you stop playing small just to make others feel big. Today, we bury the good girl and we birth the bold woman. The one who owns her choices, speaks her truth, and dares to say no and walk away proud. So if you've ever been called too much, too loud, or too independent, this message is for you. Every time you say yes to something or someone when you don't truly want to, you're saying no to yourself. That's a reality we've all been living in, often without even realizing it. Saying yes is supposed to mean you're open, you're kind, you're accommodating. But what happens when that yes turns into a pattern, a reflex, something that feels automatic? What happens when you say yes to everything around you, but forget to say yes to your own heart, your own needs, your own desires? You lose yourself. You become a puppet to everyone's wishes, expectations, and demands. You are so busy trying to keep everyone around you happy that you forget what it feels like to make yourself happy. Let me tell you a story. A woman, let's call her Neha, was known for always saying yes. The family commitments, yes to friends who needed her, yes to anything and everything. She lived to please, to make everyone around her feel good, to make sure everyone else's lives were perfect. But one day, Neha realized she couldn't remember the last time she had done something for herself, something that sparked joy deep within her. She had forgotten how it felt to say no, to honor her own feelings and desires. Every yes she gave to others had become a no to her dreams, her peace, her health. And after years of this cycle, she found herself exhausted, bitter, resentful. She had no energy left to even think about the things she truly loved because she was too busy giving her time, her energy, her soul to everyone else. We've all been there, haven't we? We say yes because we don't want to disappoint people, because we're afraid of being seen as selfish or uncaring. We say yes because we don't want to disappoint people, because we are afraid of being seen as selfish or uncaring. We say yes because we don't want to be the person who says no, the one who rocks the boat. But in that process, we lose the most important person in our lives, ourselves. Think about it. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, your dreams, or your well-being, you're allowing someone else's agenda to take over your life. You're giving your power away, piece by piece. Let's talk about Rhea, a woman I know who constantly said yes to toxic relationships. She would forgive over and over because she didn't want to be the one who walked away. Every time someone hurt her, she would swallow her feelings, suppress her emotions, and let the relationship continue because she didn't want to create conflict or lose that person in her life. She thought, maybe if I keep saying yes, they'll change, they'll see how much I care. But what happened? Rhea ended up drained, unappreciated, and hurt. Her yes to someone else's behavior was a loud no to her self-worth. She gave them all her time, and energy, and in the end, she lost herself. Then there's Arya, who said yes to every opportunity at work because she wanted to be the one everyone depended on. She worked through weekends, stayed late, and even took on tasks that weren't in her job description. Arya was trying to prove her value, but in the process she became burnt out. She was so busy trying to prove her worth to others that she forgot to prove it to herself. She was no longer thriving, she was surviving. The more yeses she gave, the more she realized she had no time for her passions, her dreams, or her life outside of work. Do you know what all of these women have in common? They all allowed the world to define their value. They thought that saying yes to everything meant they were good, kind, strong women. But the truth is, saying yes to everything isn't strength. It's weakness. It's giving your power away. It's allowing others to shape your identity without ever considering what you want. You don't need to be everything to everyone. You don't need to be the good girl who's always available, always accommodating, always sacrificing. Saying yes to everything is not a badge of honor. It's a trap. A trap that robs you of your energy, your peace, your dreams. A trap that keeps you from truly living the life you were meant to live. You were meant for so much more than this endless cycle of overcommitment and self-neglect. So remember this. When you say yes to something that isn't right for you, you're saying no to your truth. You're saying no to your peace. You're saying no to your potential. And every time you do that, you chip away at the woman you were meant to be. Don't let yes become your cage. Don't let it steal your voice, your dreams, and your time. Instead, learn the power of no. The power to say no when something doesn't serve you. The power to protect your peace, your dreams, your life. Because when you start saying no to the things that drain you, you start saying yes to the things that matter. You start saying yes to your happiness, your purpose, your peace. You start saying yes to yourself. And that, my love, is where true power lies. Good girls finish last because they never put themselves first. Let me break that down for you. Because it's not just a catchy phrase, it's the harsh truth we refuse to see. The world loves a good girl, doesn't it? The one who's always polite, always willing to help, always saying yes, always sacrificing for others. But in that constant giving, that selfless act of putting everyone before herself, she loses something precious. The good girl is celebrated by society, yet she is often the one left behind. The one who never truly gets what she deserves. Because when you always put others first, when you give away all your time, your energy, your heart, there's nothing left for you. And eventually you'll find yourself wondering, where did I go? Look at Anita, a woman I know well. She works so hard to please everyone. Her boss, her family, her friends. She never said no, always went the extra mile, made sure everything around her was running smoothly. Everyone loved Anita. She was the good girl, the dependable one, the one people always called when they needed something. But here's the thing. In her quest to be loved and valued by others, she lost sight of her own dreams. She put her career goals on the back burner. She put her passions and hobbies on hold. She poured all her energy into pleasing others, never once asking, what do I want? And then, one day, when she realized the years had passed and nothing she truly desired had come to fruition, it was too late. Her goodness had become a curse. Because she had prioritized everyone else's needs over her own, she had neglected her own growth, her own happiness. It's a familiar story, isn't it? So many of us fall into this trap. We've been taught that being the good girl, the one who puts others first, the one who is always kind and selfless, is the right way to be. But here's the kicker. Being the good girl doesn't get you ahead. It doesn't get you what you deserve in life. It doesn't lead to success, to fulfillment, to growth. It leads to burnout, to resentment, to a life where your dreams remain unfulfilled because you are too busy making everyone else's dreams come true. Take Reena for example. She was always the one who took care of her friends, made sure everyone was happy, took care of the launch and everyone from a school she was promoting. But she was finding it impossible to maintain ice cream for them, to lift it off the table. In fact, when her son wanted a free floater, he did not pay. Today they just came to me. The ladies of the night, they want to know what you do. Because I can no longer always looked out for others. But when it came time for her to ask for help, she was met with indifference. When she wanted to take time for herself, people around her would guilt trip her into giving more. Everyone knew Reena as the good girl, the one who never asked for anything, the one who gave everything. But what did Reena get in return? A life where her own needs were ignored, where her dreams were left unspoken, where she was always exhausted, emotionally drained and frustrated because she never took time to invest in herself. And in the end, she realized being the good girl didn't make her happy. It didn't get her the respect she deserved. It didn't get her the life she wanted. It only left her feeling empty, tired, and invisible. Here's another truth. Being the good girl is a mask. It's a persona you wear to be accepted, to be loved, to be seen as worthy, but it's not real. It's a version of yourself that you create to meet others' expectations. And when you live your life to meet other people's expectations, you forget to listen to your own heart, to follow your own desires, to chase your own dreams. You end up sacrificing the things that matter most to you just to please people who might never appreciate it. But listen closely. The world doesn't need more good girls. It needs strong, independent women who know their worth, who prioritize their own happiness, who take charge of their lives, their futures and their destinies. The world needs women who are unapologetically themselves, who are bold enough to say no when they need to, who are brave enough to stand up for themselves, and who are confident enough to put themselves first. Let's talk about Maya. Maya was the good girl who always put others first. But one day she woke up and realized that her life was passing her by. She was living for everyone else except herself. So she made a decision to stop being the good girl and start being the bold woman she was always meant to be. She started saying no when she needed to. She started focusing on her goals, and she started setting boundaries. And you know what happened? Maya found her voice. She found her power. She found her purpose. And in doing so, she created a life that truly reflected who she was. A life filled with love, success, and fulfillment. Because when she stopped putting others first, she finally made room for herself to grow. So here's the truth. Good girls finish last because they never put themselves first. It's time for you to stop being the good girl and start being the woman you were meant to be. The woman who knows her worth. The woman who prioritizes her own dreams. The woman who walks confidently in the direction of her goals. The world doesn't need more good girls who finish last. It needs women who lead with strength, courage, and unapologetic self-love. It needs you. And it's time for you to put yourself first. Being kind is power, but being a pushover, that's a trap, a weakness, a pattern that leaves you drained, invisible, and unappreciated. Let's be clear. Kindness is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It's the force that builds connections, creates change, and fosters deep, meaningful relationships. But there's a fine line between kindness and being a pushover. When you're kind, you offer love, compassion, and empathy to others. But when you're a pushover, you allow others to take advantage of you, to walk all over you, to steal your energy, your time, your worth. Let me tell you about Priya. She's the perfect example of someone who gets it all wrong. She's the type of person who can never say no. She wants to be there for everyone, to help, to please, to take care of everyone's needs. But here's the problem. Priya was so busy trying to please the people around her, so desperate for their approval, that she forgot to take care of herself. She let her boundaries slip away until she was constantly exhausted, stretched thin, and burned out. People took advantage of her kindness because they knew she would never say no. They knew she would always give, always accommodate, always do whatever it took to keep the peace. But Priya's kindness became her weakness. She gave so much to others that she had nothing left for herself. She gave up her time, her energy, her dreams, all for the sake of others. She kept quiet when people disrespected her, ignored her needs, or took her for granted, because she didn't want to rock the boat. She thought, if I'm just kind, they'll love me. If I'm just kind, they'll respect me. But she was wrong. Her kindness was being used against her, and in the end, it drained her soul. Now think about this. Being kind does not mean allowing people to walk all over you. Being kind does not mean sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of someone else's comfort. Kindness is not about being a doormat. Kindness is about standing in your truth, being strong enough to set boundaries, and having the courage to say no when necessary. It's about offering your compassion from a place of strength, not from a place of fear or insecurity. Here's another story, this time about Aisha. Aisha always said yes, even when she knew it was not in her best interest. She stayed late at work even when she was exhausted, helped friends who took advantage of her generosity, and let family members guilt-trip her into doing things she didn't want to do. Aisha thought, if I keep giving, they'll appreciate me. If I keep being there for everyone, they'll love me more. But instead, what happened? She started to lose herself. She started to resent the people she was helping because she felt they didn't value her sacrifices. She felt like she was invisible, like no one cared about her needs. She became frustrated and bitter. But she couldn't understand why. What Aisha didn't realize was that being kind is not about being a pushover. Being kind is about knowing your value, respecting yourself, and offering love and compassion from a place of abundance, not scarcity. When you give from a place of abundance, you can give without fear. You can offer your kindness and help without losing yourself. But when you give from a place of scarcity, when you give because you feel like you're not enough unless you give, that's when you lose your power. That's when you start to resent others, and that's when your kindness becomes a burden. Think about it. When you say yes to everything, you're saying no to your own peace, to your own happiness, to your own time. You're saying yes to others at the expense of your own well-being. And that's not kindness, that's self-sabotage. True kindness means knowing when to say no. It means knowing when to stand up for yourself, when to walk away from situations that drain you, and when to protect your peace. Kindness is not about saying yes all the time. It's about saying yes to the things that align with your values and saying no to the things that don't. Take a moment to think about this. How often do you say yes to things that you don't want to do just to avoid conflict or to make others happy? How often do you put everyone else's needs before your own, leaving yourself feeling drained and unappreciated? It's time to stop. It's time to stop being a pushover. It's time to recognize that your kindness is a strength, not a weakness. And it's time to reclaim your power by setting boundaries, saying no when necessary, and making sure your kindness is always coming from a place of self-respect. Because let's face it, the world will only respect you when you respect yourself. The world will only value your kindness when you value yourself. So stop letting people take advantage of your kindness. Stop letting your fear of being disliked or unappreciated make you weak. When you stand in your power, when you set boundaries, when you show the world that you respect yourself, your kindness will have a new meaning. It will be a force to be reckoned with, a power that no one can ignore. You don't owe anyone comfort at the cost of your chaos. This statement, my friends, is one that we need to live by. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from your own peace of mind just to make someone else feel comfortable? How often have you swallowed your own frustrations, your own emotions, your own desires, just so that someone else doesn't feel unsettled, doesn't feel upset, doesn't feel uncomfortable? Why do we do that? Why do we continuously put ourselves in chaos, all for the sake of someone else's comfort? Because we've been taught that we have to keep the peace, that we have to make everyone happy, that we have to be the ones who always compromise, always bend, always make sure everyone else is at ease. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone comfort at the cost of your chaos. It's time we stop living for the approval of others and start living for our own peace of mind. Let's take a moment to look at the story of Megha. Megha was always the peacemaker, the one who always made sure no one was ever upset, the one who always agreed to things, even when it wasn't in her best interest. She was the one who would smile and nod, even when she was burning with frustration on the inside. Megha was the person who kept silent in situations that made her uncomfortable, just so that others wouldn't feel awkward. She would go along with things that didn't sit well with her, and when it came time for her to voice her own concerns, she would stay quiet because she didn't want to disrupt the peace. But in doing so, she created chaos within herself. She was constantly battling her own inner turmoil, feeling like a prisoner in her own life, shackled by the need to keep others happy at all costs. One day, Megha reached a breaking point. She realized that she had spent so much time worrying about everyone else's comfort that she had completely neglected her own. She had spent years making sure that everyone around her was okay, while her own needs, her own happiness, her own peace had been buried beneath layers of compromise. She was exhausted, mentally drained. She realized that no one had asked her to sacrifice her peace for their comfort. She had done that to herself. And that was the moment Megha decided she was done. She was done sacrificing her peace. She was done putting herself through chaos just to avoid conflict. She had finally understood that her comfort, her mental peace, her emotional well-being mattered more than anyone else's comfort. Let's talk about another example. Ravi was a young professional who was always afraid of rocking the boat at work. He was the one who always agreed to every extra task, every deadline, every demand from his colleagues and bosses. He never spoke up when his own workload became overwhelming. He never voiced his frustrations, his feelings of being overworked, because he didn't want to cause problems. He didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But inside, Ravi was dying. His mental health was deteriorating. His stress levels were rising. And his relationships outside of work were falling apart. Why? Because he had become so focused on maintaining the comfort of others that he had completely neglected his own peace. Ravi thought that if he said no, if he spoke up, if he set boundaries, people would think he was difficult or uncooperative. But in reality, he was sacrificing his sanity to keep up the illusion that everything was okay. He had forgotten that you cannot give your best to the world when you're constantly drowning in your own chaos. So why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves in situations that create internal chaos? All to avoid making others uncomfortable. It's because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to how much we give, how much we endure, and how much we compromise. We've been taught that to be loved, to be accepted, to be valued, we must always be the one who gives up, who sacrifices, who does the emotional labor for everyone else. But that's a lie. Your worth is not defined by how much discomfort you endure for others. Your worth is defined by how you value yourself, how you set boundaries, and how you refuse to let anyone's comfort come at the cost of your peace. Here's the thing. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving and compromising at the expense of your own happiness, your own stability, your own well-being, you will eventually have nothing left to give. And the sad truth is, many people will take and take from you until you have nothing left. They won't care about your chaos, your exhaustion, or your inner turmoil. They'll only care about their own comfort. But you need to ask yourself, do you want to live your life constantly sacrificing your peace, your joy, your dreams, just to make others comfortable? Or do you want to live a life where you honor your own needs, where you stand in your power, where you create space for your own happiness? The power lies in your ability to say no. The power lies in your ability to set boundaries. The power lies in knowing that you deserve peace, that you deserve to feel at ease, that you deserve a life where you don't have to sacrifice your own chaos for someone else's comfort. When you start living for your own peace, when you start prioritizing your well-being, when you stop allowing others to take advantage of your kindness, you will realize that the life you've been craving has always been within your reach. It was just waiting for you to stop giving away your peace. The most dangerous woman is the one who's no longer afraid to walk away. Let that sink in for a moment. We live in a world where women have been conditioned to stay, to endure, to sacrifice for the sake of others. Whether it's relationships, careers, or situations that don't serve them. But what if I told you that the most powerful, the most dangerous woman in any room is the one who knows her worth, who understands that her peace, her happiness, and her values are non-negotiable. And she is not afraid to walk away from anything or anyone that threatens them. Take a moment and think about Maria. Maria was in a relationship for years. She loved him deeply. But deep down, she always knew something wasn't right. She ignored the red flags. She accepted the excuses. She convinced herself that things would change if she just kept trying, kept hoping, kept sacrificing. She endured the late nights, the broken promises, the emotional manipulation, because in her mind, leaving would mean giving up. But one day, something inside her shifted. She realized that by staying, she was slowly killing the parts of herself that mattered most. Her dignity, her self-respect, her joy. She was no longer the woman she once was. And in that moment, she made a decision. A decision that would change everything. She walked away. The power in that moment, the strength in her decision was beyond measure. It wasn't just about ending a relationship. It was about reclaiming her life. It was about saying no to fear, no to uncertainty, no to the narrative that had been planted in her mind that she couldn't survive without him. Maria became the most dangerous version of herself because she knew that she was no longer willing to tolerate being treated as less than she deserved. She understood that walking away wasn't a weakness. It was a declaration of her everyone else's comfort, that she had completely neglected her own. She had spent years making sure that everyone around her was okay, while her own needs, her own happiness, her own peace had been buried beneath layers of compromise. She was exhausted, mentally drained. She realized that no one had asked her to sacrifice her peace for their comfort. She had done that to herself. And that was the moment Mehiga decided she was done. She was done sacrificing her peace. She was done putting herself through chaos just to avoid conflict. She had finally understood that her comfort, her mental peace, her emotional well-being mattered more than anyone else's comfort. Let's talk about another example. Ravi was a young professional who was always afraid of rocking the boat at work. He was the one who always agreed to every extra task, every deadline, every demand from his colleagues and bosses. He never spoke up when his own workload became overwhelming. He never voiced strength, her self-worth, her refusal to settle for anything that didn't bring her peace. Now let me tell you about another woman, Priya. Priya worked at a job where she was constantly overlooked, constantly given the worst tasks, and constantly dismissed when she spoke up. Her ideas were ignored, and her worth was never acknowledged. She stayed in that toxic work environment because she was afraid of leaving, afraid of what would happen if she walked away. She feared the unknown, feared not being able to find something better. But then one day, after years of feeling unappreciated, she realized something profound. Her value was not tied to a job. Her worth was not defined by her company or the people who failed to recognize her potential. That day, Priya made a choice. She quit her job, walked away from the toxicity, and never looked back. In that single moment, Priya became unstoppable. The woman who once feared change, who doubted her ability to succeed on her own, was now the woman who took control of her destiny. She walked away from something that had drained her spirit and her energy, and in doing so, she gave herself the space to grow, to thrive, to pursue what she was truly meant for. That woman was no longer afraid to walk away. She knew that walking away wasn't about losing. It was about gaining her freedom, her integrity, her peace of mind. And when you have those things, nothing in the world can stop you. Now imagine for a moment that you're standing in front of a situation that's holding you back. Whether it's a relationship, a job, or even a friendship that is no longer serving you. You're afraid to walk away because of the unknown, because of what you might lose. But ask yourself this: what will you lose if you stay? What will you sacrifice by holding on to something that is no longer aligned with who you are becoming? The moment you realize that you are not afraid to walk away from something that diminishes you is the moment you step into your power. It is the moment you stop living for the approval of others and start living for yourself. The most dangerous woman in the room is the one who knows she is enough. She knows that her value does not depend on anyone else's opinion, anyone else's validation. She understands that walking away from something that doesn't honor her worth is an act of self-love, not selfishness. The woman who walks away is the woman who has nothing to prove to anyone, because she already knows her power. She doesn't need to stay in toxic situations for the sake of comfort or fear of judgment. She doesn't need anyone to tell her she's worthy, because she knows it for herself. And when a woman knows her worth, when she recognizes the power within her, she is unstoppable. This is your invitation to stop fearing the unknown, to stop staying in situations that drain you, to stop holding on to things that hold you back. When you choose to walk away from what no longer serves you, you're not giving up. You are making space for what's meant for you. You are making room for a life that is aligned with your soul's purpose. And when you do that, you become the most dangerous version of yourself. The woman who is no longer afraid to walk away is the woman who owns her power, who controls her destiny, who is fearless in the face of change. And that, my friends, is the woman who will change the world. Rewrite the definition of good girl. Let it include bold, blunt, and brave. For too long, we've been told that being a good girl means being quiet, submissive, and agreeable. We've been told that we have to fit a mold, to shrink ourselves to make others comfortable, to stay silent even when our hearts scream. But let me tell you something. It's time to rewrite that definition, to redefine what it means to be a good girl, and to embrace the qualities that truly make a woman powerful. Qualities like boldness, bluntness, and bravery. Let's talk about Anjali for a moment. She was always the one to keep her head down, follow the rules, and make sure everyone else was happy. She always smiled through her discomfort and kept quiet when things weren't right. For years, she played the role of the good girl, the one who never caused trouble, never rocked the boat. But over time, Anjali began to feel like she was losing herself. She felt like she was suffocating beneath the weight of the expectations placed on her. She wasn't being herself. She was being the version of herself that others wanted her to be. Then one day, Anjali had a revelation. She realized that being a good girl didn't mean staying silent. It didn't mean being meek. It didn't mean shrinking herself for the sake of others. It meant being bold enough to speak her truth, even when it was uncomfortable. It meant being blunt enough to say what needed to be said, regardless of how it was received. And it meant being brave enough to step into her power, to walk away from situations and people who didn't honor her. Anjali began to embrace this new definition of what it meant to be a good girl. She no longer tolerated being treated with disrespect. She stopped apologizing for who she was and started owning her voice. She became the woman who spoke up for herself and for others. She became the woman who stopped trying to fit into society's narrow definition of a good girl and started defining herself on her own terms. And that, my friends, is what a true good girl looks like. She is bold, blunt, and brave. She is unafraid to challenge the status quo, to question the rules, to stand up for what she believes in. Think about the women you admire most in the world. They are bold, aren't they? They are not afraid to speak their minds, to challenge the norms, to go after what they want without apology. They are blunt in their honesty, refusing to sugarcoat the truth for anyone. They are brave in the face of adversity, willing to face their fears head-on and take risks. These women don't shrink back, they step forward with confidence and strength. They don't wait for permission to be powerful, they take it. They rewrite the rules, and in doing so, they inspire others to do the same. But what about you? What would happen if you stopped trying to fit into someone else's definition of what a good girl should be? What if you allowed yourself to be bold, to be blunt, to be brave? What if you embraced your power, stopped apologizing for being assertive, and started showing up as the unapologetic, confident, fierce woman you were always meant to be, the world would be a different place. You would be a different person. One who is unafraid of standing in her truth, unafraid of taking up space, unafraid of speaking her mind. And the best part, you would inspire others to do the same. You would become a beacon of strength, a living example of what it means to be truly free. Let's think about Reena for a moment. Reena was the type of woman who always said yes, always went along with what others wanted, always put everyone else's needs before her own. She was the epitome of the good girl, always polite, always accommodating, always making sure no one was upset. But over time, Reena realized she was slowly losing herself. She wasn't pursuing her dreams because she was too busy helping everyone else pursue theirs. She wasn't speaking up when things weren't right because she didn't want to rock the boat. Reena realized that being the good girl was costing her happiness, fulfillment, and her sense of self-worth. So she made a choice. She chose to stop being the good girl who just went along with everything. She chose to be bold in setting boundaries, blunt in expressing her needs, even if it meant disappointing others. And the more she did this, the more empowered she became. She was no longer afraid of being labeled as difficult or selfish. She was finally living for herself, and that was the most liberating thing she could ever do. Imagine for a moment if all women embraced this definition of good girl. What if we all became bold enough to speak our truth, blunt enough to say what needs to be said, and brave enough to chase after? Power comes from rewriting the definition of what it means to be a good girl. A good girl is bold, blunt, and brave. She is unapologetic. She doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She is a force to be reckoned with. And she stands unapologetically in her truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may make others. The time has come for all of us to stop playing small, to stop saying yes to things that don't serve us, and to start embracing our greatness. And to start embracing our greatness. Nepan mi jitoga na sa harabi jiyoga na maga haraba. Nepan mi jitoga na maga pakaga samsikana. The time has come for us to stop seeking permission to be powerful. I want you to take a deep breath and understand this. You were born to stand out, not to blend in. The world needs your unique voice, your bold ideas, your courageous heart. And the only way to share that with the world is to stop being afraid of stepping into your power. Let me remind you of one thing. No one ever changed the world by staying small. No one ever revolutionized an industry by being afraid to take risks. No one ever broke the barriers of oppression, fear, or self-doubt by sitting quietly in the background. Every trailblazer, every game changer, every person who made an impact, made a difference, and left a legacy, all had one thing in common. They were bold enough to defy the norm. They were brave enough to make the hard decisions. And they were blunt enough to speak the truth, even when it made others uncomfortable. Now, I know it's easy to be afraid. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to please everyone, trying to fit into the mold that society has created for us. But let me ask you this. What's more important? Fitting in or standing out? What's more important, keeping the peace at the cost of your own happiness, or speaking up and creating your own peace? Think about that for a moment. If you want to live a life that's extraordinary, if you want to leave a legacy that people will remember, then you must be willing to stand apart from the crowd. You must be willing to be the one who says enough is enough, who refuses to apologize for being exactly who she is. Remember this, you have within you everything you need to succeed. You have the strength to overcome the obstacles in your path. You have the resilience to rise after every fall. You have the courage to say no when it's necessary, to speak up when it's needed, and to walk away from what no longer serves you. The only limit you have is the one you place on yourself. Don't let anyone, not even your own doubts, hold you back from stepping into the woman you are meant to be. You are capable of more than you've ever imagined, and the world is waiting for you to step into your greatness. Let me remind you of the words of the late Maya Angelou, who once said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." The world may try to knock you down, people may try to make you feel small, life may throw challenges in your way that seem impossible to overcome. But I want you to remember this. You are made of something stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than anything that tries to hold you back. You are a force to be reckoned with, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing that can stop you when you choose to step into your power. So what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for permission? Are you waiting for someone to give you the green light to go after your dreams, to be who you truly are? The truth is, you don't need anyone's permission. The only permission you need is your own. You have the right to be bold. You have the right to be blunt. You have the right to be brave. And you have the power to change your life, to change your circumstances, and to change the world around you. Take a moment and think about the woman you want to become. Think about the legacy you want to leave behind. Now ask yourself this: what are you willing to do to make that vision a reality? It's time to stop holding yourself back. It's time to start living for yourself. It's time to start living for yourself. It's time to rise, to break through the limitations you've set for yourself, and to step into the person you were always meant to be. You are a force of nature. You are powerful beyond measure. You are everything this world needs. And the moment you realize that is the moment your life will change forever. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't hold back. Rewrite the definition of what it means to be a good girl. And let it include bold, blunt, and brave. Because when you do, you'll realize that there is nothing you can't achieve.